But first, you guys look ahead to this next step with York Catholic. Is it going to be fun for you to coach against them, or?
Yeah.
Say it's called for a questionable travel call.
Yeah, and
I agree with that. I would do that.
As far as I'm concerned, that's throwing a referee.
Never say was called for travel.
Broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios at Santander Stadium. This is York's local sports show, talking local sports on York's local sports station. Welcome to Game Day with GameTimePA on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
And good afternoon, everybody. It's another edition of Game Day with GameTimePA. I'm Steve Navaroli, alongside Matt Gould, Brandon Stovenberg, Teddy Feinberg. We got a full house backfield, fellas. Welcome.
Oh, thanks for having us, Steve.
It's not you're part of the show too.
Off.
It's not me having not me having you. You're every bit as part of it. Brandon, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I like the sound of Steve being the host, but we're all here as a team. It's cold in here, but we're all nestled together as close as we possibly can, and Staying warm, and we got some playoff hoops to talk about.
Staying warm is a relative term. I am not warm, and I'm looking out at a beautiful day. It's pretty out here at Santander Stadium, but
Much better.
But we're in the shade too, so that
Yes.
doesn't help. No
With
sun shining
the
in here.
breeze coming into the window, and yeah. It's kind of like my old drafty house, for that matter. So, anyhow, boy, we got a lot to talk about today. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do some bracketology. Matt, it's your big time of year. High school hoop playoffs start this week. We got a lot of postseason stuff going on, and
Had
even
college signing day yesterday.
college signing day, and we even have Andy Meese will be joining us in the second half of the show to talk about some postseason wrestling. I'll be leaving because I'm heading to postseason swimming with the YAI swimming championships happening tonight. So that's where I'll be heading. I'll be ducking out a bit early.
More diving tonight.
No, diving was last night,
Okay.
and we got swimming tonight and tomorrow night.
Okay.
All up at Central. So, it's usually 3 days, and then I get a little bit of time in between, then districts, and then 4 days up at State. So
That should be warmer for you, right? Aren't the pool usually warm?
That'll be much, much warmer. Believe me, I got the short sleeve on underneath ready for that, and I will welcome that warmth today, so that's for sure. A couple programming notes here on 1350 WOYK. Tonight, 7:15, Capitals versus Ottawa, and then big NHL Eastern Conference matchup. And then tomorrow, Friday, you have the Revs radio show. I believe that goes, Ray, 4 to 5 on the Revs radio. And then afterwards, you and Daryl doing a high school show prior to the live stream. Sure are. Okay, it's prior to live stream video. So there takes care of the programming stuff. And how about some game balls? What do you got?
I'll start with Mr. Ryan Beck of the Dover Eagles, because here's a Dover team that needed to beat Eastern York to make the York Adams League tournament. Not just that, probably more importantly, just to get into the district playoff. They were ranked 19th in the Class AAA rankings going into Tuesday night's game against Eastern York, which is ranked in the top 10 in AAA. And here comes Ryan Beck scoring 32 points, hitting all 7 of Dover's threes. It vaults them into that top 18 in which they need to get into districts, and also wraps up that number 3 spot in the YIA Division II standings, and they will play William Penn on Saturday in the league tourney.
Well, welcome to the league tournament. You get to play William Penn. But still, you know what, though, as you said, though.
The more important thing, and this is something I've talked about with Ryan, is he really wants to get in that district tournament.
Yeah.
They've just missed it the last 2 years, and that's a team where he puts in a lot of time in the offseason, and to see him put up a really big game on senior night there against a improving Eastern York squad, which had been playing well, beat Gettysburg the night before to really set up that game. Hats off to them.
Was it a situation he just put the team on his shoulders and said, in that team
Clutch.
there's other players.
There's other players, but you know what? He is
32.
clutch, and
Yeah.
he's the straw that stirs the drink there. And, they've got Najah Fink, a nice big guy in the middle. They've got Jerry O'Neill on the perimeter. They've got a young, impressionable freshman guard in Brady Bowman. But that's the one thing that I'll be interested to see going forward is how much of an impact does Beck have on Bowman going forward in the next 3 years without him. So, Brian Schmoyer's talked about it a lot with. When there's a kid that scores a lot of points, that's one thing. But when the coach is always praising his accolades, which Brian Schmoyer does, it says something. And I think that something is the work ethic that he has in the offseason.
That makes a lot of sense, definitely. Brandon, what you got?
I like the Beck call. I saw him a little bit earlier this season. I saw him go to the free throw line 17 times against Gettysburg. I like the aggressive style of play that he has. I'm going outside of the box with mine. I'm going New Oxford competitive cheerleading. Actually, got to see them late last week. They are coming off of 4 straight District 3 titles now, 3 straight state titles, and they're going back to nationals. They just got to Florida today. Actually, they came 2 fractions of a point away from winning the national title last year, so they got redemption on their mind. We did a story. It's up online, and check out GameTimePA now. But that national title is this weekend, so hopefully they come back with a title. Best of luck to them. Great coach, great kids. Definitely good luck to the cheer team there in New Oxford.
Awesome. Good one there. Teddy, what you got?
I came in actually without one in mind, and then I just made the hand signal that I do have one. I am going to give it to every kid who signed a national letter of intent yesterday on National Signing Day in the York Adams, but across the entire beautiful state of Pennsylvania and in this grand nation. Congratulations to all the athletes who will continue their careers on the college level. It's a very exciting time for all of them.
Yeah, it is, and I want to extend upon that. I mean, because let's face it, as a lot of us are sports radio junkies, I know I am, and listening to all the talk of the national, everybody talking about the Alabamas, the Florida States, even the Penn States, and that. To me, it's more than that, though. It's the kid that is going to continue their education, and their vehicle of doing it is playing Division III football.
I completely agree with you.
I'm totally fine with that. And Division II, we got the PSAC right here, and the PSAC is an outstanding athletic conference for Division II. And if a kid gets in there, they're going to get in there, get into good education, and get good playing time, maybe even of a greater value than if they were at a small D1.
Brent Grimes, John Kuhn, NFL All-Pros this
Wait a
year,
second,
baby.
Really
Steve,
good
I'm
examples
offended.
there.
You were naming all these big-time programs, and you failed to mention the national champs in there as a premier program.
Who won the national? I don't seem to remember. Yeah, some team that wears red.
I think I completely blocked that out of my memory.
Yeah,
But-
me too.
And you know what it is now?
Well,
It's about the
probably because
kids.
They just pounded those teams they played in the playoffs.
It's about the kids, and it's a big day for those kids when they put their name on that dotted line. It's a big
And
day.
yeah, and again, and it's, listen, we in this area, we don't, we've had days where we've had several kids sign Division Ones, but it's every bit as important, I think, for the other two, and that's just kind of my thing, because any way you're able to continue your education, first and foremost, I think that's the most important aspect of it. Now, my game ball, I'm just going to bring it out from two of them from last night, the YAI diving champions. Eric Sarver of West York, sophomore. She was fantastic. I mean, she was probably the favorite going in, but she had a couple. Lindsay Pope in Northeastern was a great competitor against her, but Sarver deservingly won her first title, and Andrew Feeser, Southwestern senior, won his second straight YAI diving championship. Impressive. It was an 11-meet best score for him. I talked to him a little bit after. Unfortunately, the thing ran 4.5 hours, and I was absolutely crushing at deadline. Came up way short in the story for what was expected, and
there was some panic going on in the newsroom.
Yes.
I wish I was there.
Yeah, I forced some panic, but there just wasn't anything I could do about it. I'm actually missing a lot of the final dives because I'm having to write the story because our deadline's kind of early. So a little unfortunate circumstance there, but nonetheless, congrats to the divers. I mean, terrific performance. So. Ted, man, you want to do some athletes of the week?
I would love to do some athletes of the week, Steve. Now, Stoner actually won it. Jake Stoner continued to win it from a regional standpoint, and on a female level, it was Anna Hess, also of Dallastown Swimming. She also won it regionally. So the two YAI kids still got the nod.
That would be two YAI swimmers.
Yes, absolutely.
From Dallastown that got the nod, and of course, the Dallastown just continued their trend of winning division titles, and that it just keeps on going, and not that you should ever be surprised, but yet just the continued excellence of this program doesn't cease to amaze me, and our athletes of the week, I think, showed a part of that.
No question. And actually, tell you the truth, the swimming and diving community comes out for the votes. They rally behind their kids. That's the bottom. I think Steve sends out a mass email to everybody and rallies the troops.
No, I got nothing to do with that. All I do is you ask me for which swimmers should be nominated. I give them to you. But yeah, look, Stoner got 42%. And Anna Hess got 41% of the votes in the local GameTimePA contest, so they were out in mass this week.
I do just want to throw this out. Also, regionally, Cedar Crest, Alessa Austin on the girls' side, she got a lot of recognition as well. She scored 26 points, had 20 in the second half, as the Falcons upended Palmyra 65-61 in overtime. So from a regional standpoint, she was another female that got a lot of recognition.
Good standout there. And folks, you can vote on the athletes of the week. Our polls are usually up Sunday and Monday. They close around 5 p.m. Monday on the yorkblog.com/varsity.
And one more game ball goes out, Steve, to sports star Liz Jones, who's celebrating her birthday
Oh,
today.
I forgot about that. Boy, nice suck up, man. I like that. Well done.
Got to channel my inner Willard Scott on that one.
Well played. Although she's not 100, so don't. So I'm the only one near that age in our office. So anyhow, folks, on that note, we're going to go to a break. We'll be back to break down some basketball after this. You're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350.
Get ready for winter now and save big on your heating oil or propane costs. Call today to schedule your first fill, and don't forget to ask our energy advisors about the right money-saving plan or budget to fit your lifestyle. Lock in your rate and protect your price all winter. Our price-protected customers save an average of $325 per year. Visit ShipleyEnergy.com or call 855-4SHIPLEY to schedule your next heating oil or propane delivery. Shipley Energy, energy for life.
January and February are Caribbean months at Fender's Grill and Pub, located at the Wyndham Garden, York, formerly the Holiday Inn by the West Manchester Mall. Featuring chefs' Caribbean specialties and Caribbean drinks, plus Fender's regular menu. Visit Fender's to beat the winter blues and sign up for a chance to win a beach vacation. Register during January and February. The winner will be drawn on March 1st. Fender's is open daily for breakfast and dinner, for private parties, and we have live entertainment Friday nights. Fender's Grill and Pub, 2000 Louts Road in York. Come visit us today.
Looking for something cool to do this weekend? Looking for a different kind of family fun? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Get on the ice with your friends for Rock and Skate, the last Friday of each month. Every Wednesday is family night with free skate rentals for the whole family. And remember, the coolest place in town is also available for the coolest birthday party in town. For party package prices and public skating times, check out YorkSkate.com. Want to learn to skate? Want to suit up and learn how to play some hockey? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Learn to skate programs are now available for all ages, for every skating ability. Class levels range from beginner to freestyle, where you'll learn basic jumps, spins, and footwork, and skating rental is included. Or get on the ice for York Ice Arena hockey programs. Taught by Ice Arena coaches, boys and girls can learn proper techniques for the game. Rental equipment is available. Group skating lessons and beginner hockey programs are forming now. Plus, York City residents get a 50% discount. Register today. Go to YorkSkate.com.
Believe it or not, spring is coming, and we've got the bases covered like Etch with dirt during a tantrum. Join Darryl Henry and Atlantic League Manager of the Year Mark Mason for Revs Hot Stove Weekly, every Friday at 4. Breaking news each week with the latest player signings exclusively here first. Plus fan interaction online, interviews with players, and we'll highlight really good calls from umpires. Maybe we should have stopped with interviews with players. Revs Hot Stove Weekly, Fridays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Putting a winning team on the field starts with a good manager. Murray Securis believes the same is true when it comes to all-star health benefits. And Murray Securis Choice Benefits Marketplace just made managing that call a whole lot easier. Employers can now offer a comprehensive benefits program that controls costs and gives employees the education and resources to be active in managing their health care. Designed for employer groups of 20 or more, Choice Benefits Marketplace gives your employees the power of choice and simplifies benefits administration for employers. Contact Murray Securis or go to choicebenefitsmarketplace.com.
Hi, I'm Susquehannock girls basketball coach Dave Schreiner. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Spirited conversation going on here in the break. A little NBA talk, which I was not a part of.
Well, isn't that why we're all here to talk about our outrage over Jacques Vaughn's firing?
We're talking about the Orlando Magic.
That was the first I realized that Jacques Vaughn, from Kansas.
Yeah,
right?
I think I still have my Sports Illustrated college basketball preview in which Jacques Vaughn was on the cover.
Yeah, that was the first I realized he was a coach in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, for all I know, he could have been still playing. I mean, I don't obviously pay any attention, so nonetheless. So I did pay attention that the Atlanta Hawks went 17-0 in the month of January. That's kind of good. So,
yeah, and guess who has the longest winning streak in the NBA right now, Steve?
The Cavs.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Going for 12 tonight.
Just because they have LeBron, do whatever you want, LeBron.
They also have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love.
Yeah, okay, whatever. So let's talk real basketball. High school hoops, okay? This is the time. And Matt, you're the geek on this. I mean, you should be really excited coming into it. I know, I think then, we get this rush of games locally, and it's hard not to look ahead to districts because that's when we're really on top of it.
This is a nice appetizer. It's like
that's it.
It's like going to Red Lobster and getting those cheddar biscuits.
Oh,
now I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
That is a sweet analogy, man. I love it. Love it.
The York Adams League tournament is the cheddar biscuits before the whatever you get at Red Lobster. That's really good.
Fantastic stuff, really good. So let's look at the girls' bracket first. And since we're each holding the bracket, I'm going to start with the first game. Dallastown faces Northeastern. What do you think?
This is one of the more intriguing matchups of the first round because it matches two Division I college players. Amari Johnson of Dallastown, who's going to Rhode Island, and Peyton Hauk of Northeastern, who is going to Boston University.
Both heading up to the same region, too.
Yeah, both heading to the same region. Now, they did play recently, about a week ago. Dallastown won that one. If memory serves me correct, it was 47-30 in favor of Dallastown. This is a Wildcats team that's playing a lot better right now. Northeastern's been up and down. I got the sense that they were starting to come into their own, and then they run into that Dallastown team. As the season went on, I kind of felt like Northeastern's going to be the dark horse team in this tournament. Although it's really tough when you're matched up against Dallastown in the first round.
You mentioned that, and but to have the ability to be a dark horse, well, that's a tough matchup. I mean, right away because Dallastown, obviously. Amari's Amari. I mean, I saw her get her 1,000th career point the other night, but I'll tell you the player who's really starting to step up her game is Katie McGowan. She was phenomenal Monday night.
I think the key in this matchup will be when you look at Dallastown's starting five, their main five, they've got a three-guard set. Two of them are sophomores. Mm-hmm. And when I look at that matchup, then I look at the Northeastern side, and I think, if Kendra and Ashley Meyer can really start reining in the threes, taking advantage of that experience difference, that will serve Northeastern well.
Well, and we know they have the ability to do that. I mean, they're up amongst the three-point leaders as we put the stats together. I mean, you see Northeastern hits 4 or 5 threes a game. At least 3 of those 5 come from any combination of the Meyer sisters.
Yeah, because you look at how versatile Amari Johnson is. She probably her and Peyton Hauk probably match up. They cancel each other out. McGowan and Jordan Closter probably cancel each other out. Then you look at our X Factor, Debria Hendricks for Dallastown, the senior point guard, because she's had a lot of big games for them as of late in the second half of the season. So looking at the Dallastown side, that would be the difference for them, I would say.
Well, but another factor with Dallastown that I like about them right now is Debria. She was fine against Redline Monday night, but she didn't stand out, if you will. Sabrina Stow doesn't get any attention. Only had a couple points. She played terrific defensively, bunch of steals, nice outlet passes off the steals with McGowan running the floor. I was really impressed with her, and that's probably not a name we
her and
mentioned.
Natalie Gettle are those two sophomores I was speaking of. So, but we've got the other. Brandon, is there anything you want to throw in on this matchup?
I haven't seen either team, so I was going to defer to you guys, but I like what you kind of said. It's just a tough draw for Northeastern. If you match them up against any of the other 6 teams in the bracket, you can make a much better case for them, but it's just a tough first-round matchup with Dallastown.
Speaking of tough first-round matchups, Suburban, welcome back to the York Adams tournament for the first time since, I believe, 2006 it was. And they're matched up against the Lone Catholic, which got the tiebreaker over York Catholic for the number 1 spot from Division III.
You know what, though? That's a better matchup for Suburban than York Catholic would be. I think. I think because Maddie Comley is the league's leading scorer. She's an incredible player. Suburban plays pretty well against incredible players. I mean, I watched them totally shut down Gloucester and Hauk the first time they met. Now, second time around was different. Suburban is a very defensive-oriented team, and Maddie's going to need some help to win this game. Now, Suburban's got to get the offense going. That's kind of one of the things, where they would stand. Can they score enough points to stay with DeLone, I think would be the greatest question.
Yeah, and Claudia Mangora would be the first person to provide that scoring punch. But when I look at Suburban, I wonder, are we going to get the Suburban team that had that success against Northeastern early in the season and teams like that? Or are we going to get the one that West York completely dissected? Because West York and DeLone are similar teams in a way, with the point guard being one of their better players. Of course, with West York, you got a double-headed monster with Emily Wood and Carrie Langford. Right. But, I mean, Maddie Comley plays as well as anyone in the league. She's probably the most valuable player.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, she does play as well as 2 players would. And that's not, I'm not insinuating, and Brandon, you saw DeLone a bit as well. I'm not insinuating
a little easier to game plan, though, than it is for 2 than 1.
Exactly. I mean, I'm certainly not insinuating that Shipley or some of the help that Comley gets aren't valuable. But if they don't rise, I mean, like the game at York Catholic, like Jerry said, yeah, they did a good job on Maddie, but this is when we needed somebody else to step up, and nobody did.
But then with DeLone, you get that rebounding from Shipley. You get that inside presence from a 6-footer and Jill Novak. that's something that I think could be hard for Suburban.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see both these teams play. I saw Suburban 2 days in a row at the holiday tournament. I saw them beat up on Southwestern and then get demolished by West York. I've seen DeLone a couple times this year. DeLone's a little bit higher scoring, like you guys said. They've hit more threes. They've scored a little bit better pace. Like you said, welcome back to the tournament, Suburban. Go deal with Maddie Comley. I think in the edge, best players, I give the edge to Comley over Mangora, although Mangora is a great player. And then supporting cast, do you go with Day and Plonk, or do you go with Novak and Shipley and Loftman? I'm giving the edge to DeLone again in that one. I think it'll be a close one. I think it'll be intriguing. I like the cross division matchup, but I think DeLone's been one and done the past couple of years too. DeLone hasn't had a league tourney win since 2011.
So that's the other thing too, and this will be Jess Barley's first trip into the first foray into the league tournament. So
and she did a great job this year, though.
She definitely did.
Really
now,
did.
Those two games will be at Dover Area High School tomorrow night. The DeLone Suburban game kicks things off at 6. Dallastown Northeastern is the primetime game at 7:30. Speaking of Dallastown, that's the school that is hosting the other two games in this quarterfinal bracket. The first one at 6 o'clock, Red Lion and York Catholic. Two teams that have met in this league tourney final 4 times since 2006.
In the final 4 times, and here they're meeting in the opening round. That's pretty interesting.
It is, and of course, with Red Lion, Courtney Dimoff leading the way. We mentioned it in the preview in today's paper and on Game Time. Red Lion's been struggling a little bit. They've lost 2 straight. A hard loss against New Oxford the other day, and then, of course, the game for the division title against Dallastown the other day. Road games, too, so now they're on a neutral site. I think that does favor Red Line to right ship a little bit.
Well, I think it helps because they are familiar with the Dallastown court. I mean, let's face it, they play, there every year, but usually at some point in time during the league tournament, district tournament, state tournament, they play at Dallastown as well. So, yeah, I think so. I'm just concerned that they're just not scoring points.
Yeah.
I mean, I love their defense. I love their intensity. I mean, those kids are doing everything they can. They are just not scoring points. And York Catholic is not a team you want to play if you can't fill the bucket.
But you know what? And I think that the numbers could be a little deceiving too. I mean, they did lose 30-18, only mustered 18 points against Central York a few weeks back. Of course, I mean, Courtney Dimoff was sick for that game. She probably shouldn't even played, her dad said.
That wouldn't surprise me.
So I think we're going to see a different Red Lion team in this game. I think Red Lion needs a win here more than York Catholic does, because with York Catholic, it's like, all right, on the districts. That's what, districts and state. That's what they value.
On to number 10. Well, I would definitely agree with the importance of the game for Red Line. Even after watching them at Dallastown, their offense is really out of sync, and it's hard to say, and they're having trouble getting buckets when they need it. So they can't stop. If a team goes on a 7-point run, even Courtney isn't even getting the ball as much as she did, and maybe that's the greater concern, because I'll take my chances with her shooting any day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But if she's not getting the ball, that's a problem. I think this is the Irish's game. I really do.
I saw Red Line against New Oxford last week. They just looked flat when Dimoff wasn't coming out and scoring her usual pace. The offense just seemed to struggle. They struggled with turnovers a lot, and they just seemed their defense seemed flat. There wasn't a whole lot of spark there.
Well, with Red Line, it's all going to come down. Can York Catholic break that press of Red Lions?
Yeah.
If York Catholic can break the press, I think they win the game. If they don't, Red Line, I think, could run away with it. We could see a score maybe, dare I say, similar to the West York Catholic game we saw the other day. I mean, I think that's what it's going to come down to, because York Catholic has the capabilities to do that, to break that press, but in that trap. But that I think that's the big question.
Yeah, I think we're differing on this game, definitely. Then, so
are you picking
York Catholic? Definitely. To me, this is one of the easier picks of the first round. Speaking of easier picks of the first round, speaking of welcome back to the YAIA tournament.
Are you already writing off the Panthers in this game?
I love the Panthers. I love this team because a couple of softball players on the team. This is a great group. I'm really impressed. They've got youth playing really well. Emma Saxton, Nixon Valencic, they're playing terrific basketball.
What Steve is talking about is 22-0 West York taking that unbeaten record to Dallastown for the 7:30 game tomorrow night against Central York, the number 3 team from Division I.
Right, and the thing that is, I could justify. I'm not saying I would necessarily pick Central against any of the 6 other teams, but I could make a case to pick them. It's just hard to make a case to pick them against West York.
I know Coach Scott Wisner feels good about this matchup for the sole reason that West York doesn't have much size, but I think that's also the same reason for West York to feel just as well about this matchup because of this lack of size. So this has the potential to be a high-scoring game just because you're going to see a lot of pressure, a lot of transition. It could lead to a lot of easy buckets going both ways.
Could also be a low-scoring game because both teams have a shutdown defender too. So yeah, you're right. It could absolutely.
It all depends on how the hand checking is called then, which has been a hot topic among coaches this season.
You know what? That may be a really valid point because that is certainly
if hand checking isn't called, then we're going to see more turnovers in the easy baskets. If it's not called, if it is called, then to the free throw line we go. It'll slow down the pace.
Yes. Which maybe that would help Central getting to the line a lot, but I'm still not sure it's enough in this case. So,
do we want to go down the bracket and make our predictions now for this whole thing?
Well, yes, because basically the tournament finishes up next week. So I think let's do it quickly though because we have to go to break soon. But I would look at if I look ahead. They can fall out anyway. I can see this being the Dallastown West York final.
That was my prediction as well. A rematch of 2 years ago, and this time West York avenges that loss to Dallastown from 2 years ago and wins the league title.
It's hard for me to see the Bulldogs losing. It really is.
Yeah, I'll go with the same thing. I only had two final thoughts there. One, I love the phrase, I love the Panthers coming out of Steve's mouth. And two, West York's probably the most dominant team I saw on the boys or girls side this year. They were just a machine. I say West York, Dallastown. I say West York takes the champ.
Clean sweep on the predictions.
Clean sweep. And I'm not surprised.
Would you agree that the Red Line York Catholic game's the hardest game to predict in the first round?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I think DeLone New York Suburban is the hardest.
You think
hardest to pick.
Okay.
Hardest to pick. And again, I'm not even making a pick when I say that. I just think it's going to be a much better game. But no, I really don't. Just because I just think Red Line's struggling.
Yeah. Wow.
So. Listen, Timmy, if you're listening, use it to motivate. That'll make the game even more intriguing.
He might agree with you.
He very well might. He very well might. So, on that note, we're going to come back and talk the boys tournament after this. So, you're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350.
Hey athletes, does the winter weather dampen your sports training? It doesn't have to. Take your game inside at Backyard University, York's spectacular indoor sports training facility, right at home in your backyard. Located inside Fairmont Gym at 201 South Charles Street in Redline, Backyard University is a beautiful, state-of-the-art indoor complex for all of your sport needs. Featuring a complete baseball and softball training complex with batting cages, pitching tunnels, and a turf field for the entire team, Backyard hosts camps, clinics, and competitive youth travel teams to play in the region's top tournaments. Join York Revolution greats Jason Espedo, Daryl Harang, and Corey Thurman for one-on-one training. And take your speed and agility to a whole new level with professional trainer David Brixius from Explosive Sports Performance. Play your game year-round at Backyard University, right at home in your backyard. Visit online at backyard-university.com.
The York College Spartans play here. Catch York College basketball all season on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, your home for York's home teams.
And now a steal at the other end. Wagner picks one away, a foot race, and lays home another one. Dribbles foul line, a jump pass down to Shea, and she has 10.
The spot for the Spartans. Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports. Believe it or not, spring is coming, and we've got the bases covered like Etch with dirt during a tantrum. Join Darryl Henry and Atlantic League Manager of the Year Mark Mason for Revs Hot Stove Weekly, every Friday at 4. Breaking news each week with the latest player signings exclusively here first. Plus fan interaction online, interviews with players, and we'll highlight really good calls from umpires. Maybe we should have stopped with interviews with players. Revs Hot Stove Weekly, Fridays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Security in life isn't something you just wish for. You build it with a strong financial plan. Start with Northwestern Mutual. Together, we'll design a disciplined and balanced approach to financial security, because reaching your goals is something we both want to work toward. To learn more, contact me, Dan McGarry, at my office on the Square in York. Look for the blue awnings. Who's helping you build your financial future? The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
We tip off our coverage of the York Adams League tourney Friday with a powerhouse girls doubleheader on the high school basketball game of the week presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. I'm Ron Ruman. Andy Bria and I have the call as traditional powers York Catholic and Red Lion tangle in the opener, followed by undefeated West York taking on the Central Panthers. York Catholic Red Lion, West York Central, Friday, starting at 5:30 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm York High Boys basketball coach Troy Sowers. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Brandon Stoneberg and Teddy Feinberg, and we got the boys brackets now, and I think there's definitely some intrigue. I think it's honestly this is harder for me to predict a champion, and we'll definitely get to that. First rounds I think are out there pretty. I think we've got some definitive favorites in the first round, but. I think championship's going to be hard to pick. And Matt, I'll go ahead and throw to you first.
All right. Well, we'll start with the two games that are going to be at Spring Grove on Saturday night, 6 o'clock. William Penn, the Division I champs, play Dover. Even though I feel like the Bearcats are a heavy favorite, I think most people would agree with that. This has the potential to be a fun game because you get. I know Sam Sutton out there is going to be at this game for sure because a lot of his youth kids, from his first class, Ryan Beck, Montrell Morgan will be in this game, and that's what's going to make this fun is those guards and what William Penn does defensively against Beck, who's one of the smoothest players offensively in the league. And then on the other aspect of it, in the post, you got two juniors, Brandon Smallwood from York High and Naja Fink from Dover. I think it's going to be fun to see them go at it a little bit too.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that matchup because I agree. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't see Dover this year, as probably to the chagrin of Brian Schmoyer because you brought him losses when you saw him this year.
Yeah, they won the first time I saw them this year. They beat West York, their rival. Every other time I saw them, they got an L every time I showed up.
Which caused him to even mention me, I guess.
Yeah,
he was asking for me out of the bullpen.
He told me when they lost to Northeastern on Friday night, please don't come to the game on Tuesday. Send Neverly.
That's pretty funny, but Brandon Smallwood is playing terrific right now.
Quietly having a fantastic season. I mean, for as many double-doubles as Jair Wilson gets for them, Smallwood equally has been having a lot of double-doubles. And I think the thing you see with him is one thing Coach Troy Sowers really wanted to hammer home with him early this season, even last year, is on his putbacks. He always wants to put the ball back down on the floor. A lot of bigs do that.
Yeah.
I think he's been kind of getting away from that, and he's been just having a dynamic season.
I think his timing with things, and his timing also tends to coincide when they need just a quick little pickup because, let's face it, they're not going to get out of games at all. But, they get down by 4 or 6, and they need a pickup. Smallwood gets a rebound, puts it back in, and then the energy builds from there, and those great players around him certainly do. And, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think it's a fun matchup. It's also pretty impossible to pick against William Penn, though.
Yeah, but at the same time, this is a William Penn team that's sleepwalk at times. I mean, you see them, they lost to Central a couple weeks ago.
Need to double overtime to be Red
They
Lion.
then go and beat Plymouth White Marsh, which at the time was ranked 6th in the state, according to Penn Live. Beat them by like 17 points, come back, go double overtime, like you said, against Red Lion to win. And then just the other night, Tuesday night, they're tied with Southwestern at halftime, but then end up winning the game by 17 points.
Well, here's another thing to keep in mind, and Brandon, we certainly want you to chime in here, but the opening round of the YAIA tournament is when William Penn has struggled the most.
Against Bermudian Springs for a few times.
And the year before, against DeLone Catholic and Jim Dooley's, I don't know if it was Jim's last
game. No, it wasn't.
No, because they had districts, and it was 2 years. So, but I remember, I mean, DeLone basically had them beat. I mean, that was one of those rare times that I would tell you right out, I felt the Bearcats got lucky to win a game, because they're normally better than the other team, and I'm not saying that they weren't better, they were. But they got lucky to win that game, and Jim Dooley was just so disappointed because he was one of the most positive guys we've ever had the pleasure of meeting, and he was just so disappointed because he knew they should have won that game. He knew it. So this opening round has been a little bit. Now, they've managed to win, but these games have been in question. I mean, the DeLone game was overtime. The Bermudian game was 2 or 3 points right down to the end. So I think that's something to be wary of.
And honestly, the only time that I've seen Dover this season have a game in which Beck was hot, and so were some of the other parts of that team, was when they won at West York. They won by like 19 points.
Yeah.
Everybody was clicking. And they have not had a game like that since then, and they could use one.
And not an easy place to go play and do it.
That's what it's going to take to do it, to beat William Penn.
Sure. But you're right, though. I think if they do that, they can certainly make it a game. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I think the Bearcats come away with it, but I think it's closer than a lot of people probably think. The 1 would have it. If I'm Dover, I'm running a zone defense. I saw Spring Grove run it against William Penn with some success. Central's run it a couple times and has worked against William Penn, make them shoot. I think this is a tougher matchup for William Penn than Eastern York would have been if they had filed into that slot. I think Beck's one of the best pure scorers in the league. He finds a way no matter what that night, whether it's by 3, whether it's getting to the free throw line, inside, outside. Fink matches up well with their big guys. And I think Dover can get them some troubles. I can see this one being close coming into the fourth quarter. I think the Bearcats pull away a little bit.
Important thing that you brought up with that zone, they need that for depth concerns, because William Penn goes 8-9 deep
absolutely.
Without blinking.
Yeah.
Dover barely goes 6 deep.
Yeah.
They need to preserve their energy, and playing zone is going to be critical to do that.
And if, in certain games where the Bearcats have struggled, it's been shooting. From the outside, from 3 and that. So
well, they have had success shooting over those zones.
They
too.
have, but when they've struggled is when, and they're going to see a lot of zones.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. And Troy Sowers is well aware of that. So but it's hard to pick against them, like I said. Now, I think the most intriguing boys matchup is the next game.
Yeah, Hanover, William Penn, or Hanover and West York, and these teams have faced off before in this league tournament. The most recent meeting was a really close game, Brandon.
Yeah, last year it was a 3-point game. It's the third time in 6 years they've met in the first round. West York's come away with the win the last 2 times. I thought, like you guys said, I think this is the closest, the toughest one to pick. I think it comes down to, they both like to get up and down the court. They both. They're both fast-paced offenses. I think it comes down to matchups. Torres Krieger will be fun to watch when they're on each other. McCauley, if he's switched on to Krieger, or McCauley Rhodes. I think Bailey against Kraut and McQueen will be fun to watch. I think this is going to definitely come down and be the closest one. I think West York has a little bit, their depth a little bit better than Hanover's is. And the knock on Hanover is, they've faced 2 teams all year with a winning record, and that was Bermudian twice, and Bermudian's 12-10. So Hanover hasn't really had a tough test. So it's kind of weird for a team to make a statement victory in February, but I think if there's
and then the Camp Hill game was postponed.
The Camp Hill game is postponed. Yeah. They played Trinity, which is a really good team. They lost by 9 to Trinity, but they've been hot, but it's been like everyone says, it's been against Littlestown, Fairfield, Biglerville's. West York's had a little bit tougher competition, but Hanover didn't exactly roll over for him last year. I read Ackerman's quotes from the game story. His team was expecting Hanover to roll over, and they didn't.
Yeah, I think this is going to come down to adjustments. But I pick West York in this game because I don't think Hanover's faced a point guard quite of the quality of Josh Bailey this season. Yeah. And he's really been coming into his own, especially in the second half.
I didn't think of it that way until you said it. I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And pace of play is going. I know Hanover likes to run the floor, but they're going to see a totally different pace than they've seen all year with the way West York runs the ball up and down, and the way West York gets in your face defensively.
But they can also slow it down too, and they can pick up the pace. They can change the pace at the snap of a finger.
Sure, I think depth, to me, the biggest concern, the biggest differentiator in this game, because Krieger's probably the best player on the floor, but West York will go 9 deep in the first quarter. That's going to be a big difference, if you ask me.
I think there's a couple things that could hurt Hanover in this situation. If one of their guys gets in foul trouble, they don't have the depth to keep up with West York. If Krieger or Rhodes gets in foul trouble down low, I think the other way, though, or if West York slows the game down, there it is again. If West York slows the game down, then when Hanover has struggled, it's been when teams force them to play a half court. When they're not out running with Kraut, McQueen, Bosterman, those guys get out on the wings, then they struggle. And when York Catholic had the lead in the fourth quarter, because they slowed it down, and Hanover was able to pull away a little bit.
But if you're wondering why Brandon was stopped for a little bit, there's an eagle flying around in the ball field today.
Maybe he's upset with our having Dover lose.
Good one.
But I think on the other side, if Hanover does get out and run, if Krieger's getting his 25, 30 points, and if they're getting any kind of contributions from McQueen and Kraut are hitting their threes, because Kraut's hit 40-something threes this year, then it goes Hanover's way. I think this is the toughest one to call.
If Hanover were to win this game without Krieger scoring 20 points, I would probably drop and quit my job out of shock.
I'm going one
I'm
further.
done.
Without Krieger playing 30 of the 32 minutes,
There you
he's
go.
got to be on the floor the entire game.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does. And that's no knock on the other kids. It's just the matchup because of West York's depth.
The other knock on Hanover is their defense has struggled at times because they haven't had to play it. They force a steal against Littlestown to run the floor, force a steal against Fairfield to run the floor. That's been their points. And when they get bogged down in the half court, their defense has struggled and their offense has struggled. So it'll definitely be interesting to see.
Probably won't have to worry about much half court in this game, though. I think it's going to go up and down quickly.
Yeah, and again, those games will be at Spring Grove High School on Saturday night, starting with the William Penn Dover game at 6 o'clock. Hanover West York is the 7:30 game. Speaking of Spring Grove, the Rockets are in the playoffs. Their first winning season since 1995, or is it 85? I forget. It's one of the two. 95. Yeah, it feels like 30 years ago.
Probably.
So, but they are playing in their first round game against Northeastern. The Bobcats, who were undefeated just a few weeks ago, have dropped 2 of their last 5. Division II champs. What's your thoughts going in this one, Steve?
Welcome to the tournament, Spring Grove. You've had a fantastic year. Districts awaits, but this Northeastern team they're going to be hungry. I think Eyster is going to have them so ready because they've had a couple stumbles of late, and I see a rebounding Northeastern team heading into this tournament. I mean, which is kind of. Eli Brooks is one of the best players around. I mean, he's terrific. I mean, Matt, your preseason breakdown of the players to watch that I contributed to very little, quite honestly. You were spot on, and Brooks was certainly one on your list. And what a great player. It's just Northeastern, they can just do so many things to you.
One guarantee for Spring Grove: Eli Brooks will get to the foul line at least 10 times in this game. And now, how does Northeastern respond to that? And it's kind of funny looking at Northeastern. I said all season I want to see Northeastern and William Penn play a game. If I looked at Northeastern now, kind of like the college selection committee, I would be very sour on them after the loss to Dallastown in overtime. And to the point where I'm not actually feeling comfortable picking them against Central in a potential rematch in the semifinals. I agree here. I like Northeastern in this matchup. But after looking at how they've played in recent games, I think Spring Grove has definitely the potential to push that team.
Is depth an issue, though?
I think it is. I mean, because just kind of it's not to the extent it is in the William Penn Dover matchup,
Right.
but Northeastern honestly has as much depth as anybody.
Well, that's kind of that's my point.
That's the thing. I mean, Dover or Spring Grove is not as does not lack as much depth as Dover does. They need Brooks and Gordon to have big games to win this ball game.
Yep, exactly. Now, I think probably the easiest game to pick, and no knock on the Irish. I like the job Ryan Luckman did with that team this year. Just they're playing with a passion that was missing for whatever reason. I'm not blaming former coaching or anything like that. It just Ryan brought a little different energy that I saw. Martello's a terrific ball player. I mean, he can score, he can do a lot of things. But man, Central, and you're getting Central on a high.
You're matching a double-A team against a double-A team that overall is a 500 club against a quad-A opponent. I'm going to open this question up. Do you guys think I almost would rather see them use more district ratings involved with the playoff seeding? I mean, I'd like to see Eastern in this tournament. I mean, do you think they should just make it just the Division III champ and open it up to district ratings the rest of the way?
You know what? There's two schools of thought. Your school of thought is certainly is worthy of looking at, because you think of, would Eastern be a better matchup for Central in this game? Well, I mean, I think it's easy for us to say probably.
Yeah, they played in their season opening
right.
tournament.
However, I think the other side of it is it's part of the intrigue of a true league tournament, that there's going to be that double A against that quad A, and much the same as we saw with Bermudian Springs, that double A giving York High fits a couple years ago. Strange things can happen, and I think that is what I don't think the league would want to lose, that intrigue, frankly. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts on it, but I mean, to me, the way Central's playing right now, I mean, you got to love the Panthers.
If you look at Eastern and Gettysburg, they had their chance in the regular season schedule, and here we are.
Well, and there they were. I mean, they were in that jam-pack, that log jam that was Division II, that we said all year it was going to be. and both the boys and girls, behind the top dog, and sure enough,
I know. I asked Marty
it's crazy.
Trimmer about it. He wanted to swear me off like I was a vampire for a split second.
It's because he was dreading potential tie-breaking scenarios. My goodness, we didn't. That was the funny thing is, we went into Monday night not knowing if we were going to play in games Wednesday night. There were so many questions remaining on this tournament. I think that's good, though. It might drove us crazy for planning purposes, and might have had to drive Marty Trimmer crazy as the basketball chair, but that's good for the league.
Oh, I wrote 3 stories yesterday. I didn't need to write a 4th one on a playing game.
Well, exactly. So, I mean, it definitely helped that everything did get taken care of, but it did, it did make for a lot of intrigue going up. But you're an overachiever anyhow. You would have done it, so without complaining. Well, you might have complained a little, but so anyhow. Let's jump ahead, real quick before we go to break. I have originally, my thoughts all along were this was going to be Northeastern and William Penn. I'm starting to see it's going to be Central and William Penn.
I think so. The Panthers are the hottest team in the league right now. 6 straight, 7 of their last 8 or 8 of their last 9. And that's a game where, you look at teams, how hungry are they? Central, having lost a game to Northeastern, is going to be hungry for a game like that, which I see as a potential semifinal game. Although, I think one thing's for sure, we're going to be in for a dandy of a league tournament final.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I mean, whether it's Northeastern, Central,
or West York,
or West York, this ideally is going to be a terrific final.
And if Hanover got in there, what a Cinderella story that would be.
That would be phenomenal. I mean, that would be good in so many levels. I mean, just because of what that team's done. I mean,
a 19-1 Cinderella team.
Yeah, well, but in many ways,
21.
But there again, that's the intrigue of the league tournament.
And you know what?
Small schools go against the bigger schools.
If Hanover also pulled that off, it's without a doubt. Dylan Krieger is the player of the year.
You think? If that was the case, you better believe it. I think we could just start tabbing the All-Stars now. So, all right, folks, we're going to come back. Matt's got an interview with Central, speaking of Central York, with Panthers coach Kevin Sheeler. We're going to play after the break, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm sure Brandon's got some questions after the 5 o'clock hour for me, so stay tuned. You're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA.
Turning a double play takes teamwork, and so does preparing for life's challenges. Murray Securus works with you, hand in hand, providing thoughtful solutions to help you plan for the future. Team up with Murray Securus for safer, more secure risk management, personal insurance, health benefits, wealth management, even cutting-edge human resource solutions for individuals and small to large businesses. Living life in a winning way just takes a little teamwork. Call Murray Securus today at 397-9600 or go to murrayins.com.
Sports Radio 1350 WOYK honors the Shipley Energy Student Athlete of the Week.
This week's Shipley Energy Boys Student Athlete of the Week is Jake Stoner of Dallas Town Swimming. He scored wins in the 50 and 100 free, plus was on the 200 and 400 free relays. Such performances helped the Wildcats wrap up their 7th straight YAIAA Division I championship. And this week's Shipley Energy Girls Student Athlete of the Week is Anna Hess of Dallas Town Swimming. Hess was an instrumental part of the Wildcats' 11th straight YAIAA regular season championship and was part of the winning 200 medley and 400 free relays. She was victorious in the 200 IM and 100 backstroke and clinching a win past Red Lion. For Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, I'm Ray Jensen.
Get your home ready for fall and winter and sign up for the Shipley Energy Protection Plan. For more information, visit shipleyenergy.com.
It's high school basketball playoff season, and Sports Radio 1350 WOYK has you covered on all the action. This is Ray Jensen. Join Daryl Henry and me immediately after the pilot episode of Rev's Hot Stove Weekly for the York Adams High School Basketball Playoff Preview. Daryl and I will go through every matchup that will be played on Friday, leading all the way up to the doubleheader with Ron Ruman and Andy Gria on the call. You can listen in while Daryl and me break down all the action on WOYK 1350, WOYK1350.com, and on the WOYK mobile app.
Hi, I'm West York boys basketball coach Bill Ackerman. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
a little more hoops before we go to the 5 o'clock break. And, part of this stems from your conversation that we're going to play with Kevin Sheeler, and the fact that, for Brandon, we can never talk enough Central York, right?
Oh, no. And also in honor of our first guest on our podcast from a previous season.
My goodness, you're
was
going
Kevin
previous
Sheeler.
season. You're going back a couple years.
Yeah.
And,
So I thought it was only appropriate that we had a little quick, good related tournament talk. So why don't we go to it?
There we go. Ray, take it away.
But first, you guys looking ahead to this next step with York Catholic. Is it going to be fun for you to coach against them, or?
Yeah, I haven't gotten that far yet. When Ryan got the job last year, I shot him an email saying congratulations, and said hopefully I'll see you down the road. His response to me was, "Well, I hope so too, because that means we're both in the league playoffs." So, I'm just glad that he's able to do that down there. I'm sure over the next couple of days they'll sink in with me and Coach Wagman, Coach Fauci, and some of our other helpers as well.
This is kind of like the same question as I asked you a week ago, but, you guys, I think now 6 in a row. Do you feel like it's just the practices, the ball movement, or do you think there's more to it than that that's really allowing things to pick up?
That's the thing I'm more excited about. Is I agree with you. I think we've been playing better as of late. And it really just comes down to our intensity level, whether it be at practice or during games. I think that's what one of the big differences was there at the end of the third and start of the fourth quarter was our defense, which led to easy offense, and then finally getting lots of quick touches, and that's where we get easier looks. That's where we get backdoor cuts. That's where we get back screens, and that opens up more time for our shooters, I think.
I know you were saying before the season, stressing losing Andrew and Royce really would hurt on the defense end. Nate mentioned that on both ends, just with the leadership and just with that cohesion, he thought that's why it took a little bit of time for these guys.
It definitely was adjustment. I think we, both coaches and players, just assumed certain things were going to happen, and we neglected the fact that there was a lot of things that built up to that team chemistry and that teamwork from last year. It took us a while to get it going. Hopefully we can keep it going.
Anything else you'd like to add, Kevin?
We'll see. No, I'm just glad to be back in the postseason.
Well, hey, thanks. Hopefully I'll see you this weekend.
Take care.
All right, see you there.
And that was Central York coach Kevin Sheeler in conversation with Matt. And, Matt.
On Tuesday after their win at Spring Grove.
Yeah, thanks. And a part of that came out that because I think one of the things we talk a lot in the office, the stuff that's going on and that. And, we felt that they were, it's underperforming, too strong a word early in the year.
I think it was just because the fact you looked at some of their losses early in the season. They had that stretch where they played Cedar Crest, lost by 2 points on an Evan Horn shot in the last few seconds. And then they had Carlisle in overtime. Carlisle, I'm really high on that team, even though they're hanging around like 11, 12 in the district ratings.
Right, monster schedule.
They've got, I always feel like if you've got a point guard, that's the perfect spot to start. They've got a sophomore in Deshaun Millington who is fabulous. So they had that game. I think they had Red Lion in there. They had like a weird bunch of just not only good quad A opponents, but also games that were just bunched together and no time to go practice and work on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of those losses were just kind of a result of that.
Yeah, and he mentioned, and I don't know that, because we knew Charlie Gingrich's coming back. We knew Sam Saxon. We knew Jared Wagner. We knew the guys coming back. Did we overlook the importance of a Royce Clemens? Of it, I almost think I did until Sheeler just mentioned, maybe that he's right.
I think he is, and the one thing I always thought was, they could overcome some of those things with, Royce brought like a lot of, perimeter defense. He was a prowler, if you will, for the Panthers, and I thought Jared Wagner could pick that up because he came off the bench and provided that. But then the question is, all right, now that you have Jared in the starting lineup providing that, who's coming off the bench to bring that? And that's the one thing you forget in sports, whether it's a high school team to graduation, a college team to graduation or a draft, or even the pro teams to free agency or what have you. When you lose something, yeah, you might have a guy that can step in that role, but who steps in the old guy's role? And that's the big question.
One thing I noticed when they played up at Northeastern was they have a guy coming off the bench now whose minutes were limited. He's a senior, but he's like 6'6", 6'7". The name I'm going to.
You're either talking about the sophomore Mitch Marino or the senior Griffin Harder.
No, okay, it was Mitch Marino. Somebody told me he was a senior, so they obviously must have told me wrong. But I think he's provided something a little bit different because he brings size, but his length. His arms are forever.
He had a game a week ago. He scored 22 or 23 points just out of nowhere, and it was a funny game. And all these guys that were, I think Calvin Luckenbaugh, a soccer player like Royce was last year, who really doesn't have, he's been on the court, but he doesn't get a lot of playing time. He went off for 15 in that game. That Mitch went off for 20. So, you've seen those games, just kind of like that William Penn game from the other day against Southwestern. I mean, Jair Wilson didn't play, but you had everybody else seemed like they were scoring in double figures. So it's like just one of those games, I guess.
No, exactly. And, the thing that is, the disappointment in districts last year, losing on that buzzer beater, how far can they take that this year as a motivator?
I think it's the same way at Cedar Crest is taking the motivation from losing to William Penn in the championship game, which is why they're 18-2 and number 1 in the district right now.
Yeah,
motivation. I mean, I think that can't be understated enough. I think it has something to do with why West York's played so well this year, despite the coaching change to Darrell Wilderson on the girls' side. That's a team that 2 years ago lost some games that it should have won, and it was fighting off the injury bug. A lot of these teams have unfinished business. Mary Manlove always talks about paybacks.
Yes.
It can't be understated. I think, especially for high school kids, paybacks are important.
Yeah, exactly. So, Brandon, what's next?
We got the Uncle Steve segment coming up next. Right after the break, we'll break it down. We're bringing back an old segment, or old part of it that we hadn't had in a while, the word association. We're going to have some fun with that.
Boy.
Some quiz questions and some opinionated questions, and it should be fun.
Then I get to go back in my element to swimming right after that.
Get back in the warm pool.
Awesome. Look forward to that. Folks, you're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA. We'll be back after these messages.
This is a Radio PA news update. An executive for a home health care staffing agency faces corruption and theft charges. A grand jury says Julio Miranda was responsible for more than $1 million in Medicaid fraud, with the company Infinite Care allegedly falsifying billing records for Medicaid patients. A city councilman in Philadelphia is pressing to have bars and other businesses serving alcohol install outside surveillance cameras to give investigators a point of reference if a patron goes missing. The proposal comes after the disappearance and death late last year of college student Shane Montgomery. State Senate Democrats have unveiled a package of legislation aimed at increasing access to college education. David Payne reports.
The 13-bill package is known as CAP, or the College Access Plan. Highlights include $5,000 in merit-based assistance for students who stay in Pennsylvania after graduation, additional counselors in training to target high-need schools, and a $10 million loan forgiveness fund for applicants with incomes of $70,000 a year or less. Senator Anthony Hardy Williams is among the sponsors.
This package of bills which we have today does specifically three things. It is increasing college access, it is decreasing student debt, and it is jump-starting Pennsylvania's economy.
The bills also include tax credits for Pennsylvania businesses which hire graduates in the so-called STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I'm David Payne.
And people often look up information about their doctor before a visit, but should doctors be able to Google patients? This is the question Dr. Maria Baker of Penn State Hershey Medical Center brings up in a new paper. She says this issue will only become more prevalent as students who grew up in the internet age become doctors.
If you learn something that you didn't anticipate, how are you going to deal with that information? How are you going to document it in the medical record? How are you going to approach the patient about what you learned that is either different or not what the patient had shared with you?
Baker says she wants professional medical societies to establish ethical guidelines now. I'm Rachel McDevitt, and you're up to date from Radio PA.
Blue is my favorite color. What's yours? What's yours? Red is my favorite color. What's yours? What's yours?
Well, yeller's sweller for this little feller.
And me, I'm keen on green. So what's your favorite color? Tell us, please.
Kids will spend 20 minutes listening to songs like this.
What's your favorite color? Tell us, please. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite?
How about 2 minutes to brush their teeth? Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives and .org.
First in York, first in sports. your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350, WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.
Jordan rallies against ISIS, changing vaccination law, strong southern storms. I'm Evan Haining. The U.S. has moved search and rescue aircraft closer to battlefields to give coalition pilots better protection against falling into ISIS hands. Correspondent Becky Anderson says the killing of its pilot is changing some undecided Jordanians into ISIS foes.
They had asked for the total annihilation of ISIS after those gruesome pictures that ISIS posted of the burning of that young man.
California State Senator Richard Pan is also a pediatrician who says too many school kids are unvaccinated. So he wants to eliminate the state's personal belief exemption and require all kids to get measles shots.
That's a problem for the public health, and that's ultimately why we originally passed the law saying that you should get vaccinated before you enter school.
A strong line of storms moved through South Florida this morning. One neighborhood is convinced a small tornado touched down. The Dow is 172 points higher right now. I'm Evan Haining.
It is time to refresh and renew for 2015 at thecompanystore.com. Our semi-annual white sale is going on now. From our famous lacrosse down comforters and pillows to the finest quality sheets, towels, and bedding basics, receive 20% off your entire order, free shipping, and up to 70% off clearance items when you enter code RADIO15. That's RADIO15 for up to 70% off and free shipping. Thecompanystore.com, where quality has been known for generations. Thecompanystore.com. We're all about comfort.
Did you pay to do your taxes this year? Or did you not pay to do your taxes because you filed them for free on TurboTax and then you had some money to spend on something else, like a miniature train set, so you can give all your 2-inch tall friends a ride to a tiny post office or something? Anyhow, how you do your taxes is up to you, but if you want to pay absolute zero, then hop on TurboTax.com and file your taxes for free. Intuit TurboTax. It's amazing what you're capable of.
For simple U.S. returns only. Offer may end without notice. See offer details at TurboTax.com.
Hi, I'm Central York boys basketball coach Kevin Sheeler. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, first in York, first in sports.
Welcome back to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WYK. It's time for our Uncle Steve's segment. This is a segment where I get to shoot some questions toward Steve Navaroli and Matt Gould and get their opinions and quiz them a little bit and pick their brains. We'll get right into it, fellas. First thing I wanted to ask you about is something we've talked about in the office and in the booth before, but I want to let the people hear your voices on it. Your thoughts on adding a shot clock in high school basketball?
Oh, Matt's all over this one.
Oh, yeah, the coaches are pretty split on it, especially on the boys' side. I'll tell you, I'm really indifferent on it. Before I started working on this survey the last few weeks, talking to coaches about it, and there will be a story in Sunday's paper, Sunday News, be sure to pick it up. I was pretty much against a shot clock, just figuring, like, you know what, this is what makes high school unique. I've heard enough opinions that I've shifted at least from being against it to being indifferent about it. Like, I could go either way. I think it would be fun. It'd be cool to see. But at the same time, like, I could still appreciate the game for not having it.
I think that's an interesting point, how you did that. And what I will objectively go in and reading those opinions and reading that will be if I would shift at all. Because right now I'm against it, only because, you know, and Teddy, you and I talked about this at length about how I like the fact that they're separate rules. I like the fact that high school is this rule, then you have college, then you have pro, much the same as I like the two different leagues in baseball with one having DH and the other not. So right now, you know, I don't know that I would be in favor, but I might read an argument per your story that would certainly shed some light that I'm just not thinking of.
Here's something else I want to pose too, and I don't know if the shot clock, a shot clock I think would help with this, but this is kind of like a back in my day rant, but looking back at the late 90s and early 2000s, you know, and I said this to Jim Sipe last night, one of our reporters, you know, I remember games being, you know, 60 points, 70 points was your average scoring that I remember seeing in high school games. Now it seems like 50 is the average, and I feel like that's just not fun. So that's, and I don't know if that's necessarily a shot clock thing, because we didn't have a shot clock in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and we were scoring 70 points. So what's the difference? What happened? Where'd all those points go?
I actually have an opinion on the issue too, and I think Matt's done so much reporting on it. Yeah, he just shifted to the middle ground because he heard so many different opinions. which does happen. But I honestly think when you get inside the final 2 minutes of a game, I think from a strategic standpoint, from an end of the game standpoint, I do think having a shot clock can make for a better game. And Matt actually pointed out today, it's interesting, there are some states that have a shot clock. And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, is it, I mean, you can clarify it obviously, is it the Maryland girls actually play with a shot clock and the boys do not?
Well, here's what makes Maryland a little funky, is that they, in Maryland, their private schools and public schools are separate. They have their two own governing bodies. The MIAA, which I believe was founded in '94, is the private schools, and it's not a really big league. The public schools are in their own league. Now, in the public schools, the boys do not have a shot clock. The girls have a 30-second shot clock. Private school league, they have a 35-second shot clock for both boys and girls. And it was funny, I actually posed the question because I wanted to get some kids' feedback on this on Twitter, and Jeff Gamber let me know that he was at a game in Maryland this year and saw boys with a shot clock, and I asked him where it was, and he said, I believe John Carroll High School in Bel Air. And I looked up, and sure enough, John Carroll, private school. Yeah. So, that answers that right there. So, New York has a shot clock, California has a shot clock, Washington State added a shot clock in, I believe, 2012. Ohio does not have a shot clock, just looking at neighboring areas. AAU pretty much plays with a shot clock. So a lot of these kids do get a shot clock. And, I actually got a feedback from Austin Tillison, you might remember from Eastern New York from a few years ago. He said, it wasn't really much of a problem. They talked about it real early, worked on it. Marley Clunk, the new Dover coach, who's just a couple years out of college, also brought up, first thing coaches do when you go into college, they have you work on some shot clock stuff. And here's the thing, a lot of the kids who are ready and have the talent to play in college, they can create their own shot more times than not. Yeah. So it's really not much of an issue for them, I don't think.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
The next question I have for you regards signing day. We had it this week. It's become a big spectacle, in recent years. I guess, have you seen any creative ways kids have announced where they're going? What kind of way would you announce it? Are you on Twitter with the hats? Are you a full LeBron decision type kind of guy? Or what do you think of how it's turned into such a big event?
I think decisions are gross. I mean, I thought that was one of the worst things that's happened in pro sports, that whole blow up this decision factor, but, I think the hats, that's cool. Sure, that's a way to show, whether it's a hat, a T-shirt, the signing photo ops and that. I think it's still a situation of perspective, people. And yes, I'm being curmudgeonly. Matt's giving me the, man, you're being an old guy with this opinion look, but I think it's overblown. I really do. You want to take a photo op, hey, here's what we're doing, here's where we're going and that. But, it's all about the money. It's all about, ESPN being able to sell more, more commercials, more rights and that.
Honestly, I get kind of annoyed when they do it for everybody, to be honest. I know this is going to sound wrong, but, like signing with a PSAC school, signing with a Division III school or what have you, a smaller school, I get kind of annoyed that it's like done for everybody. And, but it is kind of cool for those big schools. And it's like my favorite one I saw was just a couple weeks ago, Carlton Bragg from Villa Angela St. Joe's in Cleveland, one of the top recruits in Ohio, a smaller school, probably AAA size school, equivalent to around here, about West York size, I'd say. He was committed to Kansas. The whole team was there. They sat behind him. Everybody, they did it on the court that they play at. He comes up, puts on the hat, and says, before he says, I'm committing to Kansas, he says Kentucky.
And by accident?
By accident.
Oh, my God.
So there was a big social media laugh.
That was hilarious.
It was hilarious. It made it on SportsCenter for that reason.
Well, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So that was kind of cool and kind of funny. I remember Dave Satilli, one of our former scribes here at the Daily Record, brought up, I think it was Ryan Williams, the running back that went to Virginia Tech.
Ryan Williams.
Yeah, went to, was like being recruited, almost went to Penn State and basically pulled up the Penn State hat and said psych, if I remember right. He told me he took offense to that.
That's ridiculous.
So that's where it kind of goes over the line, I think.
Right, and that's a good point. I love the idea of, shame that he messed up the name when he went to say it. I love the idea of having his team behind him. I think that's really cool. Part of my problem is it becomes then once again about the schools. Look,
the schools
you know,
that are profiting off these kids.
Exactly. Although I will never think athletes should be paid. Another old guy rant there.
What about a stipend?
No. They don't live on ramen noodles like the rest of us did in college.
Sometimes they don't live off of them, but they have to go to them all.
$200,000 education, good meals, a whole lot more perks than regular Joe gets in college. That's enough. Sorry, that's the way I feel.
Well, do you know what? The other kids that are in college usually are going there on mom and pop's dime. That's the thing.
Well, for those that pay their way, though, no.
Yeah, I paid my way, and I didn't have the $500 book stipend that the athletes did. I had to pay that myself.
Well, okay, let's go further with it. When and no knock on Penn State here, but when they went down to the bowl sponsored by Best Buy,
they get all kinds of free stuff.
They got each athlete got $500 worth of free stuff. Mm-hmm. Look, I'm not knocking the Penn State athlete for taking it, much the same as if it was a Tennessee athlete. The other school got it too. Mm-hmm. That's wrong, though. I just said, to me, that reeks of wrong, and that's why you have so much corruption in it.
That's where the other thing too is, at those big schools like Penn State, Ohio State, yeah, the football players, they get enough freebies and stuff. But you know what? At the mid majors, in the sports that aren't mainstream, those kids work their butts off. And they lose that studying time. Those kids they don't get those freebies.
Now, there's an interesting case.
They should get a stipend.
There's an interesting case that I would be more than willing to listen to. That's a great point.
But the problem is, you couldn't even go.
How do you divide it?
You couldn't go reverse because then that kind of goes against our capitalistic society because it's the kids who are bringing in the money are the kids
playing football
schools.
and basketball. Yeah, that's true.
The last opinion question I have for you guys, saw a highlight of a high school that rushed the court. I think it was in Arizona this week, and the school district made a big hoopla about not letting any of those kids back to a game. Are you okay with rushing to court? And is there ever a time at the high school level that it's okay to rush to court?
I get kind of annoyed by it.
I think it would be circumstance. I haven't seen. You know what? I think that's something that the AD/security around here does a pretty good job, because I can't even tell you the last time I was at a game that the court was rushed.
I don't know if it's a case, this might not apply necessarily for high school, but I will say in terms of rushing the court in the collegiate level, it happens way too frequently.
Is that why you're saying about being annoyed?
I covered Kent State, the men's basketball program there. This is the Mid-American Conference. This isn't the ACC. This is the MAC we're talking about. Kent State wasn't even, they were like their defending division champions, not even the league champions. They go up to Buffalo. Buffalo beats them. Buffalo storms the court. The school that Jeremiah Dadabo just committed to.
Yeah.
All right. Year later, I go up to Buffalo. Buffalo beats them again. What do? They storm the court again.
Yeah.
I was like, did I just see this happen? Am I having deja vu right now? And it's like, you beat a team that won a division title last year? Get real. Come on. And as far as on the high school level, as soon as I've seen kids storm the court, I immediately feel for the kids that just lost.
Yeah.
Because, you know what, it's hard enough to just lose a game, and then you're getting bumped by kids. Like, I don't care if it's, there's no ill will intended or not.
Which there might not be.
Right. But you shouldn't be touched by other kids.
It's a way to avoid it.
Even just being bumped on the shoulder as a kid's running to go to his buddy.
I'll also say this, this is in defense of these teams here. We saw what crowd on the court can do during Harrisburg William Penn basketball. It's dangerous.
It is dangerous. And I got to be honest, if I was a kid that lost a game, I would have a little bit of anger pent up. That it would be hard. That I would actually have to hold myself back a little bit.
The sure way to avoid it, don't let it happen.
Exactly. And that's why I'm against kids running out on the court.
Love it. Good point, Matt.
Very good points, guys. Right into a quiz questions now. Starting with Susquehannock. In the past 20 years, the school has brought home 3 state titles in 3 different sports. What sports were they?
Did you ask this one before?
I don't think so.
Boys soccer, softball.
Boys soccer, softball. 3 different sports have brought home titles.
Oh, 3 sports. I'm sorry. Oh, volleyball.
Girls volleyball, yep. All right, swimming question for you, Steve. In 2008, York's Suburban Swimmers brought home 3 individual state titles. Mm-hmm. Who were they?
Really?
This is a layup drill for Navaroli.
Just giving you a layup. Get your confidence up.
Kevin Marsteller, Harry Foster, or Chris Manning.
Actually, one was on the girls' side. I had one on the girls' side.
Lauren
Schmidl, yeah. 100 backstroke, 100 breaststroke, and 200 freestyle. They also had two relays.
Yeah. They set state records in both those relays.
All right. I should have known better than that. Since 2010, 3 different girls basketball teams have at least 4 division titles under their belt. Who are they?
Wait, say that one again. I'm sorry.
Since 2010, the last 5-6 seasons, 3 different girls basketball teams have 4 division titles.
West York's one.
York Catholic.
York Catholic's the other, and the third one I would say
Redline.
Redline.
Be my guess.
Redline does not.
Because the streak stopped in 2012, I believe.
Yeah, I think
It wouldn't be Dallastown. It would be Dover.
Eastern
Girls.
Eastern Girls.
Yeah, Division 3.
Because of that, we
already
have already
gotten
forgotten the 4 division format, haven't we? It's funny. You and I had the exact same thought there. Gee, we already forgot about that format.
In the past 5 years, William Penn boys basketball has been a league title every single year. How many of those did they win?
4 of the 5?
Oh, since
2010.
Since 2010, Eastern won twice, then William Penn twice. I'm going to say
twice. 2012, 2013 against the same team. Bonus points we get.
Southwestern.
The
Mustangs.
On the girls' side, however, there's been a little bit more parity. Girls hoops, 4 different league tourney champions in the last 4 years. Can you name those 4?
Dallastown, York Catholic, West York,
and Dover.
We
had Dover in 2014, Dallastown in 2013, Redline won it in 2012.
Against York Catholic.
And York Catholic won it in 2011.
Okay, so West York hasn't won it. Did they win it in 10, maybe?
They might have.
Yeah.
Redline won it in 2010.
Word association. Against West York, probably.
Yeah. Word association time. First up, Brian Schmoyer.
Passionate.
Big beard.
John Eister.
Cerebral.
Orange jacket.
Daryl Whittleson.
Oh man.
Tactician.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna piggyback that one.
And that goes to like his previous teams
Absolutely.
too. And he didn't he wanted to do what he wanted to do with this team this year.
Yep.
Switch it to a little more man, but he realized he'll be the first. If it's not broke, don't fix it. They have 5 starters back, and they don't even start all the same 5. I mean, that team's just loaded with depth, and he's the first to admit.
Don Dimoff,
otherwise known as Dimmy for a lot of us. How do I say not as crazy as people think? I know that's more than a word association, but
I can't use tactician because I already used it for Daryl. So
yeah. Teddy might have had a good one there.
I'm not in the mic.
Teddy said misunderstood.
Basketball
and that
smarts. That's a guy. If I wanted to do something, have a scheme question, he's the first person I'd ask.
2 quick swimming ones for you, Steve. Rich Howley.
Gosh, I've already used passionate. This guy, he just loves being around kids.
I think of one thing: a worn down number 2 pencil.
Craig
he keeps it in his ear.
Craig Brennan.
Yeah, I've seen him with a number. Every time I've seen him, he has a worn down number 2 pencil in his ear.
Okay. Craig Brennan, amazing. He replaced the most legendary coach the area's ever had in swimming, and didn't drop a beat.
Tom Brady.
Michigan man. I like Tom Brady, so I'm a Brady fan.
Prima donna.
Yeah, okay.
Hall of Famer.
No doubt. I mean, you know what? He'll probably go down as the best ever. Hard not to.
Deflated.
Yeah.
Last one. We like to throw some colleagues usually in there for the last one. I'm going Frank Bodani this time.
Quirky. A lot more quirky. I mean, listen, we can talk about his talent all we want, but his office antics are a lot more quirky than anybody else would realize, as Andrew Meese, who just walked in, is laughing at.
Strange candy. He always comes with strange candy. Like he had purple grain bread he was trying to give us one day.
And sang about it. Though.
Yeah, he started singing the Purple Rain song, but changed it to Purple Grain.
Yeah, that's quirky.
And he likes to talk to. He always calls old people really late after their bedtime.
They talk to him.
They do. They do.
That'll do it for the Uncle Steve segment.
I'm out of here.
Steve's out of here. He's going to swimming. We'll be back with some wrestling after this. But right now, you're listening to Game Day with Game Time PA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
January and February are Caribbean months at Fender's Grill and Pub, located at the Wyndham Garden, York, formerly the Holiday Inn by the West Manchester Mall. Featuring chefs' Caribbean specialties and Caribbean drinks, plus Fender's regular menu. Visit Fender's to beat the winter blues and sign up for a chance to win a beach vacation. Register during January and February. The winner will be drawn on March 1st. Fender's is open daily for breakfast and dinner, for private parties, and we have live entertainment Friday nights. Fender's Grill and Pub, 2000 Louts Road in York. Come visit us today.
Get ready for winter now and save big on your heating oil or propane costs. Call today to schedule your first fill, and don't forget to ask our energy advisors about the right money-saving plan or budget to fit your lifestyle. Lock in your rate and protect your price all winter. Our price-protected customers save an average of $325 per year. Visit ShipleyEnergy.com or call 855-4SHIPLEY to schedule your next heating oil or propane delivery. Shipley Energy, energy for life.
Looking for something cool to do this weekend? Looking for a different kind of family fun? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Get on the ice with your friends for Rock and Skate. The last Friday of each month. Every Wednesday is family night with free skate rentals for the whole family. And remember, the coolest place in town is also available for the coolest birthday party in town. For party package prices and public skating times, check out YorkSkate.com. Want to learn to skate? Want to suit up and learn how to play some hockey? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Learn to skate programs are now available for all ages, for every skating ability. Class levels range from beginner to freestyle, where you'll learn basic jumps, spins, and footwork, and skating rental is included. Or get on the ice for York Ice Arena hockey programs. Taught by Ice Arena coaches, boys and girls can learn proper techniques for the game. Rental equipment is available. Group skating lessons and beginner hockey programs are forming now. Plus, York City residents get a 50% discount. Register today. Go to YorkSkate.com.
Believe it or not, spring is coming, and we've got the bases covered like Etch with dirt during a tantrum. Join Darryl Henry and Atlantic League Manager of the Year, Mark Mason, for Revs Hot Stove Weekly, every Friday at 4. Breaking news each week with the latest player signings exclusively here first. Plus, fan interaction online, interviews with players, and we'll highlight really good calls from umpires. Maybe we should have stopped with interviews with players. Revs Hot Stove Weekly, Fridays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm West York girls basketball coach Darryl Wilderson. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Welcome back to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Steve Navaroli just departed to cover some high school wrestling. I'm Teddy Feinberg on the mic. Matt Gould, Brandon Stoneberg are still here. And Andy Meese has joined us. Andy, wrestling aficionado, how are things?
I'm doing well today.
Yeah, under the weather yesterday, a little 24-hour bug, but he's back in the saddle. Absolutely freezing out there. You just came in from outside. What's the deal?
It's bit windy and very cold.
I think a horrible combination. They kind of go hand in hand. We're here to talk high school wrestling, as we try to do periodically on the program. We did it last week. Andy obviously writes our Wrestle Weekly sports blog and has a weekly column that appears either every Monday or Tuesday in the newspaper, depending what day we deem it fit to run. Andy, Team State Wrestling Tournament going on in Hershey today as we speak, and I guess I just will throw it your way right off of the bat. Any thoughts, opinions, analysis on the team tournament? Obviously, from a local standpoint, the well's pretty much run dry.
Yeah, no York Adams team's in it for the second year in a row, and it's only the second time now in the last 10 years that no teams have made it. We had two that came pretty close. So Bermudian was, a win away, and Southwestern was a win away as well. But, the teams that got there out of District 3 are definitely worthy of being there. In AA, I fully expect Boiling Springs to not maybe win the title, but at least be there in the end. They have probably the deepest team in AA in the state now that Bethlehem Catholic has moved up to AAA. But yeah, Northern Lebanon's had a really impressive year for Lebanon County and LL Wrestling Standards.
Sure.
They're the first Lebanon County team to make the state tournament and the first AA LL school to make the tournament as well. So kudos to the Vikings up there.
How big of a surprise was it for you that there was no York Adams representation when the dust settled?
I think it was a bit of a surprise because of how good Bermudian Springs has been, and you don't see too many teams with 5 or 6 guys that are top 8 ranked in the state.
Really?
Yeah, it's the program that Dave McCollum's, what he's done there has been absolutely phenomenal.
He certainly has built something, and he obviously obtained his 500th career win this past early in the year. And we kind of did a all hands on deck trying to track down an interview with Coach McCollum. And I know you eventually tracked him down at a recent competition. You ran the gamut with him. We're going to run a Q&A with him early next week. Why don't you talk about your conversation, any key takeaways you had from it? First of all, what was the experience? One of the great coaches. What was the experience like just talking to him on a personal level like that?
It was a lot of fun. He gave me a little insight to how he built the program and what the 500 wins mean, and he really deflected a lot of that more to the community, to the school, to the kids, and of course in wrestling without the athletes and stuff, you're not going to get to those things. And
of course
he wasn't hesitant to praise the kids that he's coached throughout the years.
What's the old saying? In horse racing, it's like you can be a great jockey, but you need the horse. Anything that strikes you? Obviously, we're talking about 500 career victories, and we've been over it before in the program, but what do you think it is? All coaches are different. Everyone has their own style. Wrestling coaches, I think, and wrestling athletes are kind of their own breed to begin with. They're very unique, very dedicated to the cause. What do you think it is about Coach McCollum when you talk to him, when you interview him, that has allowed him to build that program a certain way and that has allowed him to become really just a class personified coach?
Going back to what Steve said last segment, his passion for the sport. One of the things he was talking about, was he started wrestling in 7th grade and continued through high school and college. And he said it really helped his personality and his lifestyle over the years. And all he wanted to do was to give back to the sport. And, the fact that he's been coaching, as long as he has, is testimony to how, wrestlers feel. It's like a fraternity.
And then in terms of establishing really just a program year in, year out, that's great there. Is that just a product of athletes starting their wrestling career young and just having that foundation?
Yeah, and that's one thing he really talked about when I asked him about how it was, how the process was of building the program. He said they started the first year with maybe 5 or 6 wrestlers, and once they got that elementary program built, and the kids learned in the elementary school and through those programs in the middle school, and he said, instead of then when they came to high school, instead of teaching them how to wrestle, it was refining the skills. And that's sort of what's helped establish Bermudian Springs as the power that they are.
I've always been fascinated by wrestlers because, again, they're kind of their own breed. They're not in the limelight often. They seem to be very low-maintenance athletes. I guess just talk about the mindset of a wrestler and the work ethic they bring to the table day in and day out, and just kind of the culture behind the sport.
It's a very blue-collar sport.
No question.
You're worried about yourself. So that, with basketball and some of those other sports, you really rely on your teammates. In wrestling, yes, it's a team sport, but ultimately you have to go out and do the job that you're assigned to do to be able to help your team. And that's just the big thing about it is you have to put in the time to really be good.
Absolutely. They pay the price. All right, so we're talking about individual wrestlers here, and you obviously in your last piece of Weekly Wrestle, again, we kind of shifted gears obviously to the individual portion of the tournament. Obviously, you threw some names out here from last year: Tristan Sponseller, Ian Brown, Chance Marsteller, all PIA champs last year. Do you see anyone from an individual standpoint this year that can live up to those lofty expectations?
Yeah, Bermudian Springs has 2 of them with Britton Shelton and Colton Dahl.
Sure.
In the latest Off the Mat rankings, which is done by the District 6 Wrestling, both of those guys are ranked number 1 in the state at their weight classes in AA. So those 2 guys really have a shot at doing well this year. Another one is another Bermudian guy.
Well, we have Sam McCullum, and we also we have Brady Linebaugh as well.
Yeah. Brady's a fairly new wrestler, and he's still got another year left. But heavyweight's, one of those things that you never know what's going to happen. I mean, last year, you just never know what's going to happen at that weight because it's a tricky weight to predict. But in AAA, you got a couple of Southwestern kids. Owen Wearley, he's returning from states last year. Derek Wilson's also coming back.
Sure.
One to watch for them, though, is Seth Janney, 220-pound sophomore. Last week, actually, in the district team tournament, he defeated Keith Miller from Governor Mifflin, who's a top 8 heavyweight in the state when he moved up to wrestle him. He's going to run into some problems on the state level in Boyertown's Jordan Wood. The kid got a silver, I think, last year at Freestyle Worlds. So that kid's definitely one of the more talented kids to really ever come through Pennsylvania. He's in the mold of a Chance Marsteller, where his aspirations are, beyond, high school and college. He wants, Olympics.
Right. He has his eye on a slightly bigger prize. Obviously, with Southwestern, you also mentioned Chase Mowry, Ben Dahl, Gage Thomas. Those are a couple guys. You mentioned Red Lions, a very young team. The Shields brothers, Bryce and Nick, solid years. What do you see out of them? Dallastown.
I see a little bit more out of Nick Shields. He qualified for a state tournament as a freshman and has been, very successful throughout the years. And he just hit 100 wins earlier this year. I definitely see a return to the state tournament for him.
Okay.
And he's a dark horse to medal right now. I don't think he has what it takes to win, but he's definitely got the pedigree and the skills to get on that podium.
Ken or Dale had a great year. From an individual standpoint, what do you think they can do? Obviously, they lost their one, first class, but do you think they have any guys that can really make an impact?
Yeah, Mike Bracey. Last year, he got second in the district, and the fact he got there was a little bit of surprise to some people, but the way he wrestled throughout that tournament, and even in that championship match where he had the lead and it just slipped out of his hands at the last minute, he's definitely a contender to medal at states.
It is unbelievable, Bermuda. I mean, you have McCullum at 29-0, Linebaugh at 28-1, Dole 26-1.
Yeah.
Austin 31-2.
Yeah, it's absurd. Like, looking at those numbers, and a few of their only losses really came in the opening 2 weekends at 2 very tough tournaments at Cumberland Valley and at Carlisle.
It doesn't stop there. Shelton 27-3, Oberlander 23-3, Austin West 28-6. Unreal.
Yeah, like you said, it's unreal what that team does. They just churn out guys year after year after year.
Littlestown, I don't want to butcher his last name, GameDay, 29-1 record. Your thoughts on him?
I think he'll do well in the district level and in the regional level, but once you get to the PIAA level, I'm not sure how well he'll hold up.
It's interesting.
He hasn't had that experience in the past, so it's really tough to say with some of those kids that really haven't, been beyond the District 3 level.
Would you say the same thing about Biglerville's Nate Newberry?
No, he's done it in the past. I think he was 6th last year at regionals, which in the new postseason format he would have gone on the states. So he's definitely a guy that has been to those levels and has had some success.
Sure. Anything else to add?
Not really.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You did great. We really appreciate your insight as always. Yep. Thanks for coming by. We'll be back, folks. You're listening to Game Day with Game Time PA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
At Northwestern Mutual, we take a disciplined and balanced approach to financial planning. Together, we'll help build your financial future on time-tested principles, not market trends, so you can take advantage of life's opportunities. To learn more, contact me, Dan McGarry, at my office on a square in York. Look for the blue awnings. Who's helping you build your financial future? The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
We tip off our coverage of the York Adams League tourney Friday with a powerhouse girls doubleheader on the high school basketball game of the week presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. I'm Ron Ruman. Andy Bria and I have the call as traditional powers York Catholic and Red Lion tangle in the opener, followed by undefeated West York taking on the Central Panthers. York Catholic Red Lion, West York Central, Friday, starting at 5:30 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Believe it or not, spring is coming, and we've got the bases covered like Etch with dirt during a tantrum. Join Darryl Henry and Atlantic League Manager of the Year Mark Mason for Revs Hot Stove Weekly, every Friday at 4. Breaking news each week with the latest player signings exclusively here first. Plus fan interaction online, interviews with players, and we'll highlight really good calls from umpires. Maybe we should have stopped with interviews with players. Revs Hot Stove Weekly, Fridays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm Dover boys basketball coach Brian Schmoyer. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, first in York, first in sports.
We are back. Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Teddy Feinberg, Matt Gould, Brandon Stoberg. Andy's leaving. See ya, Andy. Great effort. We're back here. We are here to talk about some reader interaction questions on Facebook that we threw out there. We're also going to bring up new DeLone Catholic head football coach and hopefully touch on National Signing Day a little bit more from a local standpoint as well. But we'll start out by throwing out some questions we asked on social media regarding some high school hoops. First question was actually on Northeastern boys basketball. Now, Matt, please correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe they have lost 2 of their last 5 games as they're starting the year 17-0. The question is there any concern there? Did they peak too early? Mark Thomas wrote in on our YDR Facebook page that they'll win 1 game in the YAIA tournament and then be eliminated. They can't hang with the 4A schools. So, Matt, I guess I'll start there. Your reaction to that, because I actually think, if my perception is that actually we feel differently.
I mean, I think, just looking at the matchups, they could lose to Central in the second round. They could easily beat Central in the second round of that league tournament. With Northeastern, I get more intrigued about what's going to happen with them when they get to the district tournament. I think that's a team that I think they'll get to Hershey. Now they'll only have to win 1 game to get to Hershey. I think they'll qualify for states, and I think that's where they kind of remind me. I hate to make a comparison, but I remember a couple of years ago, Dover, their girls team, went on a run like Northeastern did. They didn't lose a game until the second game of the league tourney. They struggled a little bit here and there. They were up in Quad A for the first time, qualified for their state tournament, and then got a draw in which they went to the quarterfinals of the state tournament. I see some of those similarities with this Northeastern team. They're in the Quad A field for the first time. They could run into some tough matchups in districts, of course, in the league tourney as well. But, man, this is a team that I think is going to catch fire one more time.
So you think that
I think the question is when.
The cliche of peaking too early doesn't apply here.
I think they peaked and they're going down into a valley, but I think they're going to peak.
They're going to re-peak.
I think they'll have some aftershocks, and I think it's going to. The question is, does it come this weekend and into next week, or does it come a little bit later? I think that's the question.
They must be really tired of hearing that they can't keep up with the 4A school talk. They've heard that during football season and basketball season.
That's a fair point.
All year. If I'm an athlete in that team, that's bulletin board material for me. But their first round matchup's harder than people. People are assuming they're getting past Spring Grove really easily. Spring Grove is 2 of the best scorers in a division, and then if anyone else chips in from Spring Grove, that's when they start beating the big teams. They were 2 points away from beating William Penn earlier this year.
Well, when Northeastern lost to West York, I took it as a blip on the radar.
Sure. When
they lost to Dallastown on the road, I was a little more concerned because that's a young team. They've got a sophomore and a freshman as their 2 main guards. That's a team they should beat.
Bit of a surprise.
So that's where my concern came in. But at the same time, you always got to remind yourself, these are high school kids. They can take games off. They can be inconsistent. And you know what? I think that that could be very well what we're seeing with this team right now.
Well, and again, maybe losing a game or two, that's not necessarily a negative thing. I mean, they had a great year. They had a great record. Maybe experiencing a loss or two losses can be a benefit. Maybe it gives them a chance to go back to the drawing board, erase the slate, start clean, and take it.
I just thought it was kind of funny because I asked them about that, and they agreed, yes, this, the loss to West York opened their eyes. And this was after they beat Dover to clinch the division title, and then the next day they went and lost to Dallastown. So that's kind of like where it's like, you can say it, but this is a team that I'm excited to see them play some more because it's still a fun team to watch. And I don't think they should be sold short for being in Quad A. I mean, it's kind of interesting. You look how it changed because their enrollment number, I think, is 429, if memory serves me correctly. It used to be the cutoff was 431, and the PIAA moved it down to 412. Now, they did that to compensate, to keep the numbers consistent. So you had a similar number of AAA schools, AA schools, and Quad A schools.
Sure.
And I even think with that adjustment, Quad A still has 3 or 4 fewer schools than the other classifications. That's not counting single A.
We talk about an undefeated basketball team, and the West York girls are undefeated. I believe they're 21-0 or 22-0, one of the two.
We had this discussion a couple of weeks ago.
We did.
And even then, I said, I think Northeastern, a loss wouldn't hurt them, whereas West York, I think going undefeated wouldn't hurt them. So I think the way these teams have played out, West York, a loss, they don't need to go undefeated and have that pressure taken off of them for a loss because they're an older team, a veteran team, whereas Northeastern has a mix on the boys' side of some youth and some experience.
Me, you, and Nav discussed the West York issue. Would the loss be good? Ron Miller actually texted us saying, I like the one-loss question. Brandon, what do you think? Do you think being, again, we see it in college hoops right now with Kentucky and, of course, Virginia. They're undefeated, and the question is, would a loss help? Would it hurt? Would it be indifferent? I mean, what do you think about just that concept with a sports team on the high school level or whatever level?
I think, like Matt said, I think if it's a young team, I think a loss kind of takes the pressure off and lets them just start playing again without all the extra, hype around them. I think, with a veteran-laden team or a well-coached team like West York, I don't think it would really swing the pendulum too far either way. But I think a young team with young kids, I think. Them going into a tournament, a district tournament or a league tournament with a 20-0 record, 21-0 record, being already pegged to favorites or having all the extra attention around them would probably be a little bit tougher on them. Now they can play a little bit more loose. They're not even the favorites anymore, after that. Sure. So now they can go out there and just play loose.
Yeah, because when you're a senior, you're not looking ahead because, it's a cliche of one game at a time. I mean, when you're a senior, you are taking it one game at a time because you are cherishing every game that you're going out there. So I think that's why if you're a senior and you're going undefeated, it's not even worrying about it. You're just like, wow, this is I'm running out of opportunities to play high school basketball.
I think that's a great point. What do you think of their chances? I mean, obviously they have great chances. Chances is the wrong word, but what is your forecast for them going into postseason basketball? We're talking about the West York girls. What do you think their ceiling is?
I think their ceiling is beyond districts.
Wow.
This is a team where I don't see how I think they could easily get to the quarter. I mean, we've seen teams get to the quarterfinals, and you know what? It's been a while since we've seen a team above AA get past the quarterfinals. This West York team has the potential to do that. Then the question is when they run into, always District 7 and the Philly area. Those teams are, the questions when you run into them. But man, I really like this West York team a lot. The one question I would have is when they run, and Steve and I have had this discussion, you look at a potential district championship game, West York and Berks Catholic. Berks Catholic has some height and athleticism that I think can give them some fits.
Interesting.
They've played West York.
West York's not the biggest team.
Yeah, West York's not the biggest team. Now they are just, the perimeter-wise, they're as good as anybody, especially on the defensive end. But again, I wonder. I mean, they haven't seen too many big teams. What happens when they run into a Berks Catholic? That's a matchup I hope I get. When we were talking about William Penn and Northeastern boys, how fun it'd be to see them play. I can't wait. I hope we get to see a West York Berks Catholic district title game on the girls' side.
Awesome.
It'd be so much fun.
Okay. Well, we'll see if it goes down. They clearly have had a great year. They're a great team. They can beat you multiple ways. They are dangerous. I like that call. Want to kick the ball over to high school football, and then we've had some hires. or at least we had one hire. DeLone Catholic hired Corey Zortman as their head football coach. And Brandon, you wrote the story here. Now Zortman is obviously a DeLone grad.
Second graduate we've seen because Kyle Sprinkle at Spring Grove.
No question. Great call, Matt. So, again, Brandon, you interviewed him, you talked to him. What were some key takeaways, and what were your feelings on the Zortman hire and the new Zortman era? I like the word Zortman, the Zortman era. Talk to me.
I think it's a fresh face, and much like Spring Grove, DeLone wanted to go back to an alumni. They wanted someone who had been in the program there, and it's the first time since 1978 that they've had a DeLone coach who was also a DeLone football player at one time. The last guys, Frew and Wiles, didn't play at DeLone. He's a little bit younger. He's energetic. He's coached in their system before. I mean, as soon as he graduated from there as a state champion in '94, he started coaching right away. Coached the middle school, he moved up to the freshman, the JV level, all the way up until 2011. He coached under Frew and Wiles. He took a break from 2011 till now. He took a break. He said he was spending some time with family. He has a daughter. He spent some time with a retired father who he said he's been hunting and fishing with for the past 3 years and enjoying his time.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Overall, I think it's good. I think it's a fresh face. He's also one of his best quotes was, "I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I'm here to just carry the torch." He's keeping a lot of the DeLone traditions. He liked that Wiles brought back the classic gold unis and helmets. He's keeping that. He's keeping Wiles' wing T offense. That was another big deal. People thought maybe DeLone needs to update their offense. He's going to stick with the wing T there in Division III. He had a lot of great quotes. He's very humble by it. He's very excited. He called it a dream job. He grew up on Main Street, McSherrystown.
That was a water boy for the team in the 1980s.
Yeah, he was a water boy under his dad. Coached. He's also got coaching in his genes. His brother coached at York Suburban a few years back. Another Zortman, Colby, I believe. His dad coached at different levels. I mean, his whole family's been coaching. He grew up a block away from Flaherty Field, so I mean He's got the lone black and gold blood in him, as he said.
Matt, do you like the idea of... Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, it's so easy for people to beat up on the wing tee. And you know what? DeLone is one of those teams that still makes the wing tee fun to watch. So I'm excited about that. That's cool. It's usually at the smaller schools, the AA and the single A schools, that they can run the wing tee. And honestly, it can be electrifying when you have an athletic wing back because it looks like reverses half the time. So I think, it's easy to beat it up at like Dover and some schools, but at DeLone, I think it's a great fit.
Do you like the concept of hiring the alumni, or the alum, if you will?
It depends. I mean, sometimes you worry if they're being hired too early, but at the same time, that guy is going to give it all, his heart and his soul, because that's his or her alma mater. I think there is something to be said about it, but at the same time, like I said, do you do it too early? We've seen that in the past where a coach might be hired a little too soon and not be ready for the job. But I think it's still a good feeling. It's always a feel-good story.
Good fit in your mind?
I think it's a good fit. And like you said, maybe too early. Both these guys were talking about Spring Grove and DeLone don't have any. Sprinkle doesn't have any varsity experience either. These are two first-time varsity coaches, but they're at their alma mater, so they bleed their school colors. They're passionate. The fan bases know them and are comfortable with them. Maybe gives them a little extra cushion to get started. Hey, that's Corey. It's not Coach Storman. Hey, that's Corey. We grew up with him. We'll give him he gets a little extra leeway to get going. Maybe the same thing as Spring Grove with Sprinkle.
It'll be interesting to see. We obviously have a number of vacancies still around, so it'll be interesting to see within the next week, 2 weeks, month, how it all sorts itself out. Folks, we're going to come back. We have our final segment coming up. We're going to talk local athletes who sign with respective college programs. We're going to figure out what we learned today. I don't know if we really did learn anything, but I know I did. I'm like a sponge in here. Come back. You're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Sports Radio 1350 WOYK honors the Shipley Energy Student Athlete of the Week.
This week's Shipley Energy Boys Student Athlete of the Week is Jake Stoner of Dallas Town Swimming. He scored wins in the 50 and 100 free, plus was on the 200 and 400 free relays. Such performances helped the Wildcats wrap up their 7th straight YAIAA Division I championship. And this week's Shipley Energy Girls Student Athlete of the Week is Anna Hess of Dallas Town Swimming. Hess was an instrumental part of the Wildcats' 11th straight YAIAA regular season championship and was part of the winning 200 medley and 400 free relays. She was victorious in the 200 IM and 100 backstroke and clinching a win past Red Lion. For Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, I'm Ray Jensen.
Get your home ready for fall and winter and sign up for the Shipley Energy Protection Plan. For more information, visit shipleyenergy.com.
Want to learn to skate? Want to suit up and learn how to play some hockey? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Learn to skate programs are now available for all ages, for every skating ability. Kids of all ages will learn how to feel comfortable on ice, how to stand, and perhaps most importantly, how to fall properly. Class levels range from beginner to freestyle, where you'll learn basic jumps, spins, and footwork. Classes are taught by York Ice Arena skating instructors from White Rose Figure Skating Club. No skates? No problem. Skate rental is included in your registration. Or get on the ice for our York Ice Arena hockey programs. York Ice Arena coaches will focus on teaching proper techniques needed for anyone interested in playing hockey. Rental equipment is available for beginning players, both boys and girls. So get on the ice. Learn to skate. Learn to play. Sign up now. Group skating lessons and beginners hockey programs are forming now. Plus, York City residents get a 50% discount. Register today. Go to yorkskate.com and click on program info. York Ice Arena, the coolest place in town.
It's high school basketball playoff season, and Sports Radio 1350 WOYK has you covered on all the action. This is Ray Jensen. Join Daryl Henry and me immediately after the pilot episode of Rev's Hot Stove Weekly for the York Adams High School Basketball Playoff Preview. Daryl and I will go through every matchup that will be played on Friday, leading all the way up to the doubleheader with Ron Ruman and Andy Gria on the call. You can listen in while Daryl and me break down all the action on WOYK 1350, WOYK1350.com, and on the WOYK mobile app.
Hi, I'm Red Lion Boys basketball coach Steve Schmale. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, first in York, first in sports.
Hey gang, Game Day with Game Time PA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Teddy Feinberg, Matt Gould, Brandon Stoneberg, Steve Navaroli took off at 5:30 to go do swimming. We had Andy Meeson here talking high school wrestling. This is our final segment, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't bring up some locals who shined on National Signing Day yesterday. Matt, you did a story rounding up the crew in today's newspaper. About 7 bylines in today's newspaper, but obviously your signing day roundup was one of them. Too. Absolutely. You guys did your high school hoops preview from a YAI standpoint, but I guess we'll take it from the top. You began by talking about Jeremiah Dadabo, who is the lone D1 recipient from a football standpoint. He is signing with SUNY Buffalo. I believe they're in the MAC.
Yeah, they the same Buffalo team that I mentioned earlier.
Absolutely.
That stormed the court twice. Only Division I. I guess BCS. It's technically not the BCS, but the championship division era. Cause,
mid-major.
Because Hakeem Kennard is going to go to St. Francis, which is here in Pennsylvania, halfway between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh, but way off the beaten path of the turnpike, kind of up there a little bit. That's a Division I school, but it's like what was formerly known as 1AA.
Sure. Is it FCS? Or?
Yeah, Hakeem told me that he's going there as an athlete. They are going to give him a chance to play quarterback, but he could end up anywhere else.
He was a great player for York Catholic.
I thought he would go as a cornerback on the next level because he had been a 3 or 4 year guy there at York Catholic at that position.
Also, James Way, another very successul quarterback at William Penn.
Way going to Kutztown. I think the important thing for him is they are giving him an opportunity to play quarterback, and that's he's somebody who told me a lot of schools were like, we like you as elsewhere, other positions, and that's the thing a lot of these kids run into.
Shot a QB
when you're the best player in your school or one of the top ones in the area.
Yes,
and you got to look at it. I mean, we only had one true Division I recruit, so obviously a lot of these schools, if you want to go to a bigger school, they're going to have their pick of the litter for who they want at quarterback and spots like that. So you're going to have to adjust to other positions. I remember when I was in high school, the best player I ever played with was became our second all-time leading rusher. He went to Toledo as a safety, not as a running back. So, you got to make hay with what you can, and but kudos to them, maybe taking like a little step down, maybe in the school they could have gone to, but to chase what they want, and that's a chance to play quarterback.
I would love to see them get a shot at quarterback. They were great players here, and as you said, I don't think there's a question athletically.
And for James, he's got the build for it. That's what will serve him well. Hakeem, I thought, was going to be a cornerback, honestly, because he's undersized. He's only 5'10", and it's not what you really look at as a quarterback. You've seen him do it before, but and a lot of the coaches always, and that's the thing, coaches always support their kids so much. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I heard not just Eric DePue, but John Defoe, the Bermudian coach, say, wow, somebody's going to get a great kid. here in Hakeem Kennard.
Sure.
And he thought, he should get a chance at quarterback. I have never heard John Defoe praise an opponent as much as I heard him.
Kennard was outstanding for them last year.
He was. I mean, he in a way, he kind of carried them to a district title game.
He was outstanding. Zaire Willis also signed with Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
That's a big get for them because he's only played 2 years of actual high school football. He got hurt as a freshman. He's 6'6", 6'5", 320 pounds. Actually lost 20 pounds this year. Got in a little more shape. He's somebody who could really develop into something, and I think he's going into IUP just ascending as far as a football player goes, and they're going to have him play guard.
Brandon, kicking it to you, Ryan Markle, Lockhaven. I believe you said there was another local that also signed on board.
Wade Laudeman, running back and linebacker, defensive back from Gettysburg, signed a letter of intent yesterday with Lockhaven as well. I think we had an IUP and a Towson from Spring Grove. There's a lot of PSAC schools mixed in there, mixed in a little bit everywhere, but overall, yeah, like you said, the PSAC's a great conference, and a lot of these schools are getting great kids, and hopefully we'll keep track of them and see how they do at the next level.
Actually, I have to point out that Spring Grove thing about Towson was false. That was like a fake tweet about that, and I was having a discussion with a couple of coaches about how honestly stupid that is.
That's ridiculous.
It's taking away the validity of what is going on that day, and I think it's pretty. Honestly, it's kind of selfish. It's just stupid.
Well, it kind of goes back to the insane attention the day gets.
Yeah,
it does. I mean, it's a product of that.
Well, I was talking to one coach who pointed out to me that, hey, I just saw that Game Time retweeted one of these kids, and I think they must have untweeted it because I didn't see the retweet on it. But I saw a reply to him. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm all about the kids getting attention, and I definitely I want to see them be well represented on that day, but it's a fine line. I even saw someone retweeted today that someone decommitted from a school, and he actually
on Twitter.
He broke to them #decommit.
I've had enough of this. I'm out of here.
Complete insanity. Well, I felt like it was a great show. I learned that Matt thinks Brandon's a class act. That's what I learned.
I learned that Brandon was a class act, although I already knew it, I guess.
I learned that they think I'm a class act.
I also learned there was a bald eagle flying overhead. He's a fan of the show.
I learned that eagle was upset about our pick.
Yeah, he was very upset that we had Dover losing in the first round.
You can't go against
He's
Dover
a big Ryan
Eagles.
Beck fan.
All right, guys. Well, hey, it was a great program as always. 2 hours chock full of goodness. Come back next week, 4 to 6 p.m. Thursdays, Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
First in York, first in sports. Your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.